define what an agent is and how is it different than interacting directly with a LLM. Again, this is
Absolutely.
also from Kova's creating. He has a lot of these cool visuals, so one of the reasons I love it. So normally speaking, of any LLM, let's just say ChatGPT and Anthropic, you have a user input, you interact with the LLM, it gives you an output, right? But instead of doing that, what if you could have an agent that you give tools to? So tools mostly are just like APIs that can, because some of them, like now ChatGPT does it, but when it first came out, it didn't have a connection to the internet. So you could only ask questions on what it was trained on 2 years ago, 1 year ago, whatever it was, right? Now you can actually go hit the web to do some searches. You can go get a API, weather API, or if you need to access some math or some coding libraries, you can access all of that. So if you were an agent, to me, agent almost feels like an apprentice, right? If you tell them, hey, these are all the tools I've already, and you can teach them everything almost like the first time, and I can tweak it. So it's better than training an apprentice because they mostly will forget it. So if you can teach them all these tools, say this is input, watch what the outputs are. If you don't like it, or if you give it answers, go back and kind of do an iterative process until you're satisfied with the outcome, then give me the outcome, right? So that's what the visual is showing is there is the agent observes as we are performing these tasks or whatever tasks we assigned it. When it's observes and it says, okay, this is a satisfactory answer, then you get an answer. So there are multiple places when you're doing searches where you need answers right away. But if you're really asking a task to be done, you could set up a task and walk away, and 10 minutes later it comes back with the answer, and now it is taught through different processes to get to an answer. I'm okay with that time as long as the output is exactly what I want. So, but just stepping back a little bit, if you look at it, there's user input at the intelligence layer, which is the LLM, and a tool layer, and then the agent manages that and gives you an output at the end. So, is that? I just want to keep it as at that level so that we can dive deeper into some of the use cases. But do you have any more to add to that?
Absolutely, Rajni. I think this is a great find. I think it's the very, in my opinion, this starts off the people who are consuming this material to start thinking about what where to start, right? I think I'm not trying to pick it apart, but I think it gives you. I think in my mind, when I look at it, it's more like a transactional agent. The reason why I say it's transactional is that it appears to observe the thing for that transaction and try to do a feedback loop and finish the job. And once it's done, right? It's going to keep doing it like a memoryless system again and again, in the same observation. So it works. It's almost like you have a hired workforce. They come in, they do it for a limited task or time, and then they forget and go, right? They don't have any long-term investment in. I think the reason why this is also very crucial to understand is that once you get that part, then you say, hey, how do I do multiple transactions? How do I make this thing remember my tastes and preferences? Then you start personalizing this thing, right? It's the first step is to get a transaction going. Then you say, okay, these parts of this transaction I want to store. Part of this, I want to even train another model to feed that in a more heuristic way. And a lot of evolutionary things happen there. So that's why I like this. I think it gives a very good starting point where the landscape is, right? You take an input, you give this knowledge, which is the brain, and then give it a bunch of tools, let it go do the task, right? And once the task is done, what's next? Just rinse and repeat. This also might be very good as a starting point for some cloud services where people come in one-off jobs, and there are a lot of businesses which just do one-off jobs. So these kind of things can. So that's my thought.
Agree. I think what it does is it kind of puts a layer on top. So I know we've been playing around with this. You don't have to be wed to any particular LLM or any particular tool, right? Once you have this layout, for example, you can replace the ChatGPT with the Anthropic, with the Llama as an LLM. Tools today, there are 5 tools available. Of course, the tools interaction with the LLM changes, the output changes. So you have to do a little bit of testing to see which one works best with, and what are the prompts that work great. So that's still there. That thing, that's where the differentiation will come into play when you're starting to specialize these agents. So the tools are going to be ever expanding. The LLM models are going to be changing. But if you build a process, because a lot of entrepreneurs, when they look at it, hey, if you build something, what are the functionality gets added to the LLM? I'm out of business. Not really. If you have a tool that it actually is built on another layer where the LLM becomes more replaceable. So that's one thing. And imagine we have all these APIs now, but eventually we're going to have specialization, just like what you mentioned for each agent. And the agents are going to start talking to each other. So I want to use a topic from, I think it was an X, one of the agents, I think it's AIXBT, which was trying to build. Is I think it is. I think AIXBT. I've been reading a lot about it. But anyway, one agent was trying to get an image generated. It didn't have the function. It didn't have the tool. So he posted on X saying, "Hey, I want somebody to build me a or create an image for me that I can use in some kind of output." And then another agent whose main goal was to build images respond to it with an actual image that this first agent now accepted and paid it. So I'm like,
Gotcha.
oh my God, that is out of, I mean, not out of control, but what I'm saying is they are being trained now to ask for help. And it could be the human could have done it. It just happened to be another agent. And they were having conversation with each other. Transaction was finished, and first agent got what was needed. So I feel like these things will be a surprise now, just like we were surprised when the first text to image happen. This is one of the first things that happen. In a year from now, this will become normal. Everybody will have an agent. There'll be hundreds of agents, and we'll have our own agent who understands our likes, dislikes, our style, and interacts and orchestrates with the other agents to get you the output you want.
Absolutely, Rajni. And while you're talking, I had another spark. So this particular thing, if you look at look at it like a three variable system, right? Let's say the first variable is your large language model. The second variable is your tooling. Third is your observation, right? Even with as minimal and transaction as it look, it is very interesting for a business to. So imagine if you build a system where the consumer is allowed to change one out of the three, right? Just one out of the three. Like I can change the LLM and I get a variety of different outputs that I get, and if I like it, fix it, right? Or if I change the observation, what is observing it, give it more observability or whatever it is, right? Then the output changes, right? You again, I am going off of the what you mentioned before. How to vary, given the input, how to vary the output to match the user's preference, right? Even as simple as this, you can vary one variable at a time and try to let the user get what they want. And that to me is a great thing, because now it's not like build, it's still a build once, use many times, by letting the user arrange the pieces to get what they want. This is fantastic.
I know. I think they call it mass personalization. I think that's what it word. Basically, instead of you building one that's thing that works for everybody, let's say you like a weather API that's weather.com. I like underground, whatever
Exactly,
my
exactly.
take, right? I can use my preference. Everything else stays the same, but I change my API so my responses will be in line with what I like. So
And
absolutely,
that's
I
where
think
your pricing power comes in, right? Essentially, if you're building a product, you're now figure out how to get the pricing power. Now, based on these variabilities and customizations, your pricing power and the value increases. And I think there is a business model definitely evolving coming out of this.